And I'm going to. Look at that. I got some video footage of Rand at the intro. God. I thought a lot of people, well, hey, it's on your channel, buddy.
So that is true. That is true. That is when people say, hey, you should be on camera. I'm like, I was on TV. Don't you remember? Go check it out. It's on my channel.
Exactly. Of course, everybody, I'm back with another Games Talk Live. And of course, this time it's with Rand Thor 19, a proper one-on-one here. How's it been, Rand?
It's been good, Fonz. I hear you're loving Halo, bro.
Loving the Halo. Halo Infinite has been pretty darn good, and we'll get into some of that a little bit later. But first, it's the beginning of the show, so it's all about you right now, Rand.
Really?
And I'd like to ask you some questions, sir. So, first question. We all know you're the man with a million gamer score, of course. What made you start a YouTube channel?
What made me start a YouTube channel?
Yeah.
Interesting
Any
question.
Inspirations?
I didn't really have any inspirations per se, but I will say one of the driving forces behind it was the one and only Tim Dog. Tim Dog kept on pressuring me to do it. He kept on saying, you know exactly what you're talking about, because we had been podcasting together on TXR. I think we started that show in like 2016. So he would always be like, you need to start your own show or your oon channel, make some videos. You're very knowledgeable. And he kept on pushing me to do it. And I was just like, I don't know. Who wants to listen to me? Right. We all have that imposter syndrome. Like, do I really know anything? And who wants to listen to me talk about anything? Right. And
a lot of people, Rand. A lot of people.
he kept on pushing me to do it. So it was just like one of those things where I was like, yeah, why not? Right. Why not? Mm-hmm. Why not do the channel, see where it goes? And, at the time it was just like, it seemed like a good idea. So I started the channel up, and I never thought it would be what it is now. I didn't think I'd hit 10,000 subscribers. And then here we are, like, essentially 5 years later. Essentially 5 years later, because I started it at the end of 2016 when Forza Horizon 3 came out. And we're around 84,000, which is ridiculous. I never thought I'd reach that number. Me and Jez started a podcast, and
Xbox 2. Tell us a little bit about that, man.
It was just something that me and Jez, we talked in Skype or in DMs, and then we would actually voice chat in Skype, talking about gaming and some of the rumors or whatever that he would hear and I would hear. And it was just really good conversation. And he was just like, it sucks that nobody's ever going to be able to hear these things. And I said, well, we can do a podcast. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And it's like, we just started the show on my channel. It's been going on for 4 years now. And
dang, has it been that long?
I know, right? It doesn't seem that long, but it's been 4 years. We're almost to the 190th episode. And there are some shows we miss here and there, because Jez is in Germany or he's in the UK, so there's a big time difference. Sometimes he's tired, sometimes he's not, or sometimes I can't do the show. So there are times we miss, and yes, the show can be a little fluid. Sometimes it's on Friday, sometimes it's on Saturday.
But
I don't know. I really love doing the show every week with them. To see people come and listen to us. And this past weekend we had 1,100 people.
Which is absolutely crazy
when you think about where you started versus where you're at.
Yep.
like when you
Yep.
first started it back in 4 years ago, and you were
I
just
mean,
amazed to see like
dude,
anybody,
when I
there.
first started this show, I was getting like 50 viewers, and now I'm still getting 50 viewers. It's amazing. I love it. Yeah. No, shout out to everybody in the chat, man. We've got a lot of good people in the chat. We've got Ashtray Gaming, Blue Moon, Jordy, Jacob, Master Rect is here. He's one of my channel members. Good to have him here as always. But yeah, Joanna Dark. I see all of you out there. Rat, what's up? Yeah, so you've been doing this thing for a while now, 5 years. You've had the podcast for 4, and that's crazy. I didn't even realize you guys were doing it for 4 years already. But again, I was just thinking the other day, and I told Dealer while we were about to go on the air with RDX, we've almost been hitting 5 years. It'll be 5 years next year, I believe. 5 years. So yeah, we've been on 4 years as well.
I think me and Dealer started our shows respectively around the same time.
So, close, yeah.
Close to the same time. And it's crazy to see, like, Dealer's channel and podcast grow to the lengths it's grown and stuff. But I don't know, man. It's just really cool to see. I like talking to the people, like when they show up, and the chat can be amazing, like it is here. Sometimes you get some trolls that always show up that try to ruin it for everybody, but it's just really cool talking with Jez. And like, honestly, sometimes we don't even really talk about we just talk about what's going on in our lives, or just the jokes between us, and people seem to love it. Like, it's weird. Like, I never thought people would care that much,
Yeah, me neither.
And it's just, it's just, it's a blessing.
It is. It's awesome too.
But it's one of those things where, like, you started up and you didn't realize, like, it was just a random thing. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to do a YouTube channel. Tim Dog basically pushed me to do it. And now I can't imagine not doing it, essentially. Where it was just like a random thing. It was just like, nobody's going to care. Why am I even bothering? And like today, like, it's just like, people do care. Even when I get little, like, nihilistic about myself, or when I say people don't care and people don't listen, I always get people that be like, that's bullshit. I love your show. I watch all your videos, and that means a lot, so
it does help you. It does help you, because I know I've had those days where I was feeling like, people really aren't watching, like, what am I doing? And then somebody will come along and just send me a random DM or something and say, hey man, I really appreciate what you do. And it just reinvigorates me. And I'm sure that happens to you all the time as well, especially with 86 something thousand subs. I mean, you must get a lot of messages like that. So
you get a lot of messages, on Xbox Live. It's great.
Yeah. So, okay. So you've been doing this YouTube channel thing for a while. Like, what is what is the best, like, takeaway from this YouTube channel that you've created? And have you had any, like, real moments that maybe a video, or maybe during a podcast, maybe you've interviewed somebody, who knows? What has been, like, the best thing that's come from your YouTube channel, in your opinion?
Well, okay. Honestly, the things that give me the most satisfaction are the messages I get from people telling me how much they look forward to my videos and how much they love watching them, and how much I recently got a couple messages, and I'm not making this up, about this guy had sent me a message, and he was telling me how much this past year my videos had gave him a sense of normalcy, because his dad had died.
Oh, wow.
And it was a really tough time for him, and he was in a very dark place, and he said that my videos were like something he could focus on, and it made him feel better. And when I read something like that, like, I make videos about Xbox, I make videos about maybe the news that happens, or my opinions on something, like, and I don't really think much of it. Like, okay, it's just my own opinion about it. But then you, like, honestly, like, you get a message like that, and someone's like, yeah, I was in the darkest place of my life, and you helped me get through it. I mean, I don't know what to say to that, right? And that's, like, for me, we've had Mike Ybarra on the show. I've had, people at Xbox talking about my videos and meetings, which I've heard about in a positive and a negative light. Crackdown 3, for instance. I've we've had so many like viewers watching. Like I remember when like the Halo Infinite free to play thing broke, and me and Jez were live, and we had like 4,000 live viewers, and I've had like a lot of views on some videos. But like what matters the most to me is that people watch the videos and care. So getting messages from people about how much they enjoy the content and how much they like how I help somebody. Like I even right now I'm kind of getting a little emotional about that, because that's not because I know what that's like, because we've all had dark days, and we all everybody kind of grabs onto something to stabilize them, right? So like that was an eye opener for me. And then some of the relationships, like, before I started this, I didn't really know you, but we talk all the time. And I talk to Colt every day, talk to Cognito, Dealer, some of my other friends, some of the relationships, Jez, someone I talk to like every single day. Like those things are the things I cherish the most. And they're all because of the YouTube channel. So it's not really a video I made or an interview I've done. It's, for me, when I think about it, it's the messages I get from people that, say how much they enjoy watching and stuff. Like, if that makes sense to you.
No, because I 100% agree, man. I 100% agree. People don't understand, like, some people do understand how long these videos sometimes take. When you're creating something, you're editing, you're putting a lot of passion into it. You're trying to entertain people. And sometimes like you'll create things that some people may not notice or something. And you feel like, oh, they're not noticing. And when they do validate that and they come to you and say, hey, I noticed you did this or whatever, and it was so awesome or whatever. It makes you feel really good. And everybody wants to feel good. And it's just an awesome, awesome feeling. And so I agree with you, man. I agree. Well, let's go ahead and move on here. Rand, I basically want to do this little thing here. The last time you were here, you were on with my good friend Ramon Terrell, and we were just talking about, it was an E3 special. It was like an after E3 special. So we didn't properly get to play this little trivia game.
I haven't gotten to do this yet. I was
I hope you're ready.
We did the E3 show with your buddy.
Yep.
Who's also a fantasy author.
Also a fantasy author.
Yes.
And you've been up all night reading fantasy books. So
it's funny, you talk about the friends we make and everything, right? And they'll make fun of you, and Colt does it all the time. Colt told Fonz, was ribbing Fonz because he thought I was gonna oversleep this show, because I didn't go to bed till 9 o'clock in the morning. And
I'm not going to sing the song he made about it, but he had a whole song that he sang about how you were going to sleep through Games Talk Live. And it was hilarious. Only Colt can sing these funny little songs. But yeah, while we were in party chat, he just kept singing this song about how you were going to miss my show. And shout out to Colt if he's listening. I think he's the one missing my show right now.
Yeah, of course. Where is Colt Eastwood, huh?
Yeah. Talked all that stuff. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. Rand. 5 questions. All right, Rand. 5 questions.
Okay.
4 trivia and 1 question that is very subjective. But as host, I have the power to say if you were wrong or right. So, Rand, let's get some music going.
With me not being on camera, you can't tell if I'm looking at Google. And
you better not look at Google. I'll give you a few seconds. Anyway, what is the name of the antagonist in Ori and the Will of the Wisps? Come on.
I should know this. Shrek.
Shriek. You're right. How many trolls were there to fight in 2018's God of War?
How many trolls?
How many trolls did you fight? Or how many are there total?
Oh, I don't know this. I'm just going to guess because
make a guess. Go ahead and make a guess.
I was just say, like, since it's the only boss you ever fight and they just paint him a new color every time.
Yeah.
6.
10. There's 10, and there's also a trophy you can get for killing all 10.
Oh, okay.
True or false? Rockstar made all of their $540 million they spent on Red Dead Redemption 2 in just 3 days. True or false?
True.
Yes, they did. They made $725 million on that single-player campaign in 3 days, folks.
Yeah.
What is the name of the silent protagonist in the Portal series?
Chet, I think?
Right. Okay, the music can stop now.
Okay.
Because now you're down to your subjective question, and that is favorite gaming experience of all time.
See, this is a tough one because you always give this to people, and it's interesting always to hear everybody else's responses.
The favorite experience,
right?
you know?
Favorite experience, and it kind of goes in with that whole IGN poll that they recently did about the greatest game of all time.
Yeah.
Right. And I've always kind of felt,
but it could be an experience that you know, something you've experienced around gaming. Doesn't have to be a game necessarily. You know?
Yeah. Well, okay. Favorite gaming experience. All right. I'll just say this because it was in the intro video. Going to E3 and breaking a million gamer score would probably be my favorite. Yeah, I mean, because like
let's go ahead.
You said an experience, not even really a game.
Let's go ahead and play that clip. Here's the experience, Rand. Relive it.
Oh, look at that handsome guy right there, huh?
Relive the experience. Everybody at home can
open up the proof. Is in the profile, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and pull up that profile. There you see
look
it.
At that snake. The
We're going to
snake
pull it
I used
right
to have
now.
for my profile. There we go. 1 million
For Matt Kelly.
really
I'm going to have you throw that controller down. I'll throw down my cards as well. I got to shake your hand here. Congratulations, Matt Kelly. I mean, how does it feel to do this? We're here at the Xbox booth. This is your favorite game on the Xbox One. We're at E3 2016. This is your first time here.
That's such an awesome experience.
It feels incredible. I can't even really probably convey my emotions right now. It's been 10 years. I've been trying to do this, and to finally get it here, being invited to E3, I'm in heaven. It's like a dream. It's something I've always wanted to do. You know, I watch all the Xbox press conferences every year, and I'm just really grateful and that Phil and Mike and everybody at Xbox decided this was something that they wanted to show off. So I wanted to thank them personally and all my friends out there. So I'm ecstatic.
Yeah, and I mean, you now have a few days to explore the E3 floor. You know, on behalf of Phil and the entire Xbox team, we want to thank you for coming out here. I mean, devoting so much time into all these games. Hopefully, you've enjoyed the journey along the way over the past 12 years, and it's special to have you here with us. So once again, congrats on crossing that million mark.
Thank you very much.
Chills, man.
All right, so it turns out
and
that
this is the first time you got to meet Phil,
but until
right,
today,
in
you guys
person.
have never met
Never met until today. We literally had met like 2 days before. No, Phil is. You know, people can say Phil's a liar and all this stuff, but like Phil is an incredible.
Congrats, 1 million. That's amazing. On Ori, what a perfect game to do it on.
Awesome.
So, Rand and I play games usually once or twice a week. We get online together. He did kind of carry me through Halo 5 Legendary.
That is true. I did carry Phil through Halo 5 Legendary.
But one of the things I love about the Xbox Live community is people like Rand who get on, support other people playing games, help people do streams of showing what new games are like. I mean, this guy right here is such a vital part of the Xbox Live community. And he does it, you know, all because of his love of games. And having him here at E3 is really special. So I'm glad he's here.
Well, congratulations. That's a huge achievement. Bravo to you, sir. Bravo to you. Thanks so much to Phil Spencer and Mike Ibarra. And
that was awesome, man.
That is. I mean, like, how could that not be my favorite? I mean, you know, you could point to like Halo 2. I played that every single day for a year, or like PUBG, 900 hours with my guys. But like, you know, that's something that's gonna honestly like stay with me forever. Like,
yeah,
that's like all the combination of like every game, you know, from like my first NES, Sega Genesis, the PlayStations, everything basically culminating into that moment, which, you know, it's incredible. On a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous was I? I was a 10, bro. Like, because we filmed the Ori thing earlier, and it's the end segment's difficult. If you've played Ori, you know that end escape sequence is pretty difficult. And I think it took me a few tries to get it right. And then when I came back for the thing with Phil, it was supposed to be a different thing. It was supposed to be like an interview where I would talk, and then they were like, "Don't look at Phil and don't say anything." And I was just kind of like, I was just, it was live, so I was just like, I was like really like nervous, man. And Phil knew that
can
and stuff,
imagine.
so it was just like, but yeah, like that's pretty crazy, man. Like that'd be mine, right?
Yeah. Were you nervous around Jessica or Phil?
I mean, Jessica's a amazing person, and it's funny because like after the show is over, I wanted to introduce myself, but I couldn't. And Phil saw that. Phil was like, "You want to meet Jessica?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, you're
like,
you're
yeah.
scared." He's like, "All right, I'll introduce you." And he still gives me shit to this day about how like I didn't
That's funny.
introduce myself to Jessica, and I made him do it.
That's funny.
Yeah. So Phil's an incredible person. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
I'm a bit biased when it comes to what he's done for Xbox and what he's done for me. So
yeah. And you know what? I know that's on your channel, and I hope you don't mind that I took it to show everybody, but it's really a special moment. And I knew that that's what your favorite gaming experience was going to be. And I wanted to show people as well, because that's what I like to do on this show. I want it to be a little different. I like to show clips. I like to make little montages for people if I can. And so I just had to share that with everybody. So
yeah,
hope
no,
you don't mind.
it's amazing that you knew that would be my my number
how could
one
it
experience.
not?
I know, right? How could it not be?
Yeah,
right?
how could it not? But if you had to pick a game, though, what would it have been?
I mean, probably Halo 2.
Halo 2, great
Halo
one.
2 got me into Xbox. It got me into online gaming.
Yep.
I mean, I talked about PUBG and how I played that for 900 hours, and it was incredible. But there was something about playing Halo 2 back in 2004 that was just magical. And it was like an addiction almost.
Yeah.
So if I had to pick one, it would probably be Halo 2. And it's not even like for like an amazing campaign or whatever. It's like literally that multiplayer experience that still sticks with me.
It was a great campaign.
I mean, it was really
great.
good. But then I always kind of look at like games by generations. Like if you to pick your favorite NES game or your favorite 360 game or whatever, right? But yeah, for me, it probably would be Halo 2. Because if it wasn't for Halo, I doubt I would be on Xbox, and I doubt I would have a million gamer score. Because I was a PlayStation fan, a PlayStation fanboy, Fonz, before all this. Like I was PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. I got an Xbox in 2004 for Halo 2, but then I was just like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was big into PlayStation, right? I was like one of those guys, like they can do because they had everything. Like PlayStation 1 and 2, they had every third party. They had exclusive like Metal Gears, Devil May Cries, Grand Theft Autos. Like you wanted to play a game, it was on PlayStation, especially big game. And then I got the Xbox in 2004 and started like, okay, Knights of the Old Republic is great, Halo's great. They had some Jade Empire. They had some really cool stuff. And then the 360 came out a year earlier, right? And I picked one up in January of 2006, so a couple months after launch. But in the back of my mind, I was always waiting for the PS3 because the PS3 was going to dominate, all right? And Sony had shown off those.
Yeah.
Well, the Sony had shown off those CGI trailers of like Killzone. You remember all those things? And they looked really cool. So I'm like sitting there as a PlayStation fan, being like, "This is the system I want." And then that E3 happened where they were like, yeah, $600. And at the time I was like, yeah, no. And so I basically I didn't get a PS3. I was like, because at that point I was like in the Xbox ecosystem, I was playing everything. And it was just like, I don't need a PlayStation, especially in those first few years where they didn't have anything, like it wasn't until later on where like after Naughty Dog released Uncharted 2 and Last of Us and the infamous games where it was like, okay, well maybe I want one now. But even then it was like, eh. And then the PlayStation 4 came out and they didn't have anything at launch either. Anything that was, I wanted to play. And it wasn't until that E3 moment that you showed, like I was there. And then Sony's show showed off God of War 2016 or God of War 2018 for the first time. They showed off Spider-Man. They showed off Detroit Become Human. They showed off Days Gone and Shadow of the Colossus. And I'm like, well, I guess now's the time to get a PlayStation because now they have all the stuff that I want to play. But yeah, I was a big PlayStation fan before Xbox.
Yeah, I was a fan of both. Honestly, I got the PlayStation 1 late. It was a couple of years late, but I got it for Final Fantasy VII. Honestly, that was the game that drew me to the PlayStation. But yeah, I bought the Xbox day one. Halo and Morrowind was actually one of the games that I freaking loved. I loved Morrowind so much. That was such an incredible game because it was the first time a big RPG like that was on a console. You know, a Western RPG, big Bethesda game like that. We hadn't seen nothing like that beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty amazing. I want to talk about Halo Infinite a bit. So everybody is, out there. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people are playing the beta right now. Halo Infinite flighting, and Digital Foundry has confirmed that the game is pretty much running a locked 60 FPS at 4K and a locked 120 FPS at 8. And the 120 FPS is running 1080p, dynamic scaling, 1080p to 1440p. So for the 60 frames, it's dynamic again, 1800 to 2160p. So that is confirmed that it's pretty much a dead lock with those. And it feels great. I've been playing it 120 frames myself. And man, I am enjoying it, my friend. Have you got to play any of it?
Yeah. I played the Halo, that first flighting I played, and all my concerns about the multiplayer just washed away because of how good it plays.
Yep.
How it's like it just controls so well. And I never really doubted 343 wasn't going to nail the multiplayer because 5 was really good as well. So, but to see, I love the 180 reactions that everybody has, and I'm sure everybody at 343 is happy. Like, in 2020 when they showed off that campaign demo, and Craig, reared his ugly head, right, and everybody kind of turned on the game.
Yeah,
the
I
game
did
was
too.
supposed to be out. Yeah, and everybody was like, "You can't release this," and then they delayed it.
Yep.
This is kind of why you delay games, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is why you delay games, so you make them better. Because I think we're going to get a much better experience all around.
By the way, I just want to say on your screen is 120 frames. Well, it's not showing 120 frames here.
Because YouTube can't do
but it can't do it. But this is the mode I played it in, and it looks great. It looks fine.
Yeah.
And 1080p up to 1440p. But I've had no issues with the 120. It's where I prefer to play.
Multiplayer is all about how it plays rather than how it looks. You want those extra frames, right? So no, it's great to see everybody talk about it on Twitter, how much they love it. But I just like the one, like everybody was a little concerned last year. Now everybody's loving it. And the only thing that's left is the campaign to see what that's like. But I think the campaign's going to be really cool. If you especially if you can use the grapple hook, because how fun is it to use the grapple hook in these matches, or the repulsors? Just like the idea of using those things in the campaign, I don't know, it kind of makes me smile because that's the whole sandbox of Halo, right? So, we can't. I mean, we got 2 months left to wait, essentially.
That's it.
December 8th. Do you think there's going to be another flight towards the end? Do you think they have another one saying like November 15th?
I can
have
see
like
that.
an open flight for
an
it or
open
something
beta,
like that.
an open flight
for everybody to play one last one.
Calling it a beta. Sorry, Ryan in the chat said it's a flight, not a beta. He's right. It's a flight, but I think they will have another, and I think it'll be open, and that'll be cool. Everybody can just come in because this time they actually gave you friend codes, so you can actually send a code out to a friend that didn't get in. So that was pretty cool that they did that. So they're trying to get everybody in this. They want to really stress test it, and so far so good, especially on console anyway.
It's having a little rougher time on PC, from what I understand.
Yeah. So for some people, apparently, because some people aren't having much issue at all on PC and some are. I don't know. It might be specs of their computer. Who knows? But there were issues that were confirmed, and they were, I think they were patched just the other day. So I think they should be good to go. Not sure on that because I don't play on PC. But I am excited for this game. I'm excited to try the campaign. Hopefully it's good. because everybody knows, for me, 343 has not delivered on a proper campaign for me to really enjoy. So hopefully they do with this game. I just want to play in this world. I think it looks really cool. It feels great. I'm ready.
Yeah, me too, man. I can't wait to get my hands on the final product. That's why I haven't really been playing too much of the flight, because I don't want to get burned out. I just kind of want to be like, all right, I played it for a little bit. I know I'm going to like it. There's really no reason to keep on playing it. I want to save myself for the proper release. You know what I mean?
Yep. Sappho with the $5 super chat says, shout out to the man with $1 million and the Fonz.
The Fonz.
What's up? What's up to you, my friend? Thank you very much for that. So let's talk about an acquisition that just happened recently with PlayStation. Mm-hmm. Sony picked up Bluepoint. Can you believe it? Like, I would have never have guessed that they would ever get Bluepoint.
It's such a surprising thing.
So surprising. That's sarcasm, folks. But anyway, what changes now that they've acquired Bluepoint? What changes?
Nothing. I mean, they're a studio that's been working with Sony quite closely for their last few games, and Sony, they must feel that that they're worthy, quote unquote, to bring into the family, and now they're going to be making PlayStation games. New content. I guess one of the things is with the acquisition, because Bluepoint's mainly known for their remakes, and they make incredible remakes. You know, they just released Demon Souls. They remade Shadow of the Colossus. They're really good at what they do. But I think one of their goals as a studio was to make original content, make original, like, new games. And that's a little bit maybe tougher as an independent studio sometimes, especially if you have, you know, aspirations to make something big, right? Something that looks really good, something that's really big, really expensive, and you need, you know, a backer. And Sony feels obviously that they add something great to their studio lineup. And it was only really a matter of time. Like, we had always heard that Housemarque and Bluepoint were kind of like that, like Returnal and Demon Souls were quote unquote tryouts to see how they would gel. And Sony bought Housemarque, and then now they just bought Bluepoint. So it's going to be interesting to see what their next game is. They said they didn't really say it was a new IP. They said they were making something with like original content, though. They said original content, because there were rumors that they were making a Metal Gear Solid remake. And, you know, people were like, well, look at this quote. It says original content. That means it's not Metal Gear. But it's like, they didn't say original new game, though. Like, it could be original content in the vein of like Resident Evil 2 remake, right?
Yeah.
Where there's stuff in the game that wasn't in the original, right? But then we learned that Konami is making a new Metal Gear, or remaking it with a different studio and all that stuff.
And possibly Silent Hill as well.
Apparently there's like 3 Silent Hill games or something. I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, it's you know, everybody seems to be the consolation of the industry. Gaming's running on this high. Everybody needs content. Content is king. So, you know, we saw Microsoft go from 5 studios in 2018 to what do we have now, Fonz? 23 studios in 2021.
Yeah.
Right? Sony
let's go ahead and get into that, because I think this all kind of melds together when we're talking about Sony acquiring Bluepoint, because that's consolidation. That's bringing another dev team into your own ecosystem, and you're going to be cultivating this dev team. You're going to be backing this dev team, and consolidation at the end of the day means, you know, to make stronger as well as, you know, to be part of one. So if you think about it, I mean, they could possibly just make Bluepoint even better, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they could have the capital to do that. That's what Microsoft is doing for many teams. Look at Tim Schafer with Double Fine. He's pretty much said that his game, Psychonauts 2, would not have been good without the acquisition of Microsoft and the help. So that extra capital, if you will. So, I mean, this all really stemmed from this right here, and I'm going to play this. And look, this is the Colin clip. Everybody knows about this from Sacred Symbols. This is what Colin had to say on, you know, this whole consolidation issue. And we're going to take a deep dive into this, but this is not a blast on Colin or Dustin or any of these gentlemen, because Personally, I like Sacred Symbols. I like Colin. I like Dustin. I've listened to these people for years, so I have no issue with them. I do take issue with some of what they say, but I have no issue with them. So this is not trying to slam anybody. I want to preface this with that. And yeah, so here is what they said.
Microsoft buying any of those companies would be heinous with a capital H. And it would make people hate Microsoft if they went and did something like that. I'm telling you, they do shit like this at their own peril unless they bought one of these publishers and left them completely alone. No one is going to tolerate a reality in which Microsoft gets Take-Two and then takes Grand Theft Auto away from 150 million people that own GTA 5 or something like that. It's just nuts. And I think it's, I've been pretty nice to Microsoft, and I think that they deserve a lot of the kindness that comes from this show. Not that they care one way or the other. I think they're doing a nice job. But here's the fucking reality of the situation. Microsoft has done very little with studios that it has nurtured and founded itself. And it is going around and grabbing things off of the market because it cannot satiate that demand internally. And that is not a problem that is happening with PlayStation. And that is the two things that differentiate the two. And by the way, if Sony came out and said, we're buying Take-Two, I'd be like, that sucks. Yeah. You know, a lot of people were rumored about the Square Enix thing and all that. I'm like, that would suck. I want Sony to make new teams. I want Sony to make new IP. And maybe you buy one or two teams that you worked with, which has always been their tradition. But no one can go and say like Sony has gone and really injured other companies with their acquisitions. And this is the kind of thing, Bethesda's one thing, but this is the kind of thing where I would find this completely unacceptable. And I think Microsoft must know that it will backfire on them if they push this too far.
All right, Rand, what say you about all that?
What say me about all that? Microsoft is a hated company. I think Windows Central just put out an article not that long ago saying they're one of the most hated companies in the world.
It's true.
I do agree with Colin that there, in the scenario that Microsoft bought Take-Two, there would be people that would hate them. 100%.
Oh yeah,
100%.
For sure. I agree with that too.
So he's not wrong in that sense, and yeah, they do that at their own peril. But I think for most people, it wouldn't be that much of a big deal.
Well, think about it, Rand.
They would play the games where the games were, right?
A lot of people hate them for getting Bethesda.
Well, that is true. That is definitely true. But hey, they're Bethesda now, Fonz. Their games never were good, right?
Yeah,
according to some people.
Sure. Wait till that Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, and we'll see all the tears.
I mean, yeah, Microsoft does. They're looking for more teams because they need more. Like they got Game Pass. We know that they need to put more games into Game Pass to keep the subscriber count growing, which will probably dovetail into another topic here that we're going to be talking about. But it's just one of those things where like video games, like the money in video games is so much now that and Sony and Nintendo and Xbox and Embracer and Tencent and all these companies, like they know that they need the teams because the teams make the games, they need the IP, and everybody needs more. Yep. You know, Xbox was not going to be able to go into this generation with 5 studios and do what they did with the Xbox One, which was rely on second party and third party relationships. Yes, it worked on the Xbox 360, mainly because the PlayStation was so overpriced and they didn't have anything good until later on, that the 360 like just dominated from the beginning, especially here in the US. They got away with basically having no studios, right?
Okay, so you mentioned the 5 studios originally, and Colin kind of hinted at this, and later on they kind of expanded on it and said that, you know, there was a lot of mismanagement within those 5 studios, as if they haven't really cultivated anything out of those 5 studios, which I disagree with completely, because they've had a lot of hits with those studios. We're talking Coalition, Playground Games.
Well, some people would argue that Gears has been mismanaged. I've seen that on Twitter. I don't really think so. I think what you're seeing with Gears is just a natural fall off of people's excitement towards a franchise that has basically been releasing a game every couple years since 2006. I think they're essentially over it. But when you look at like, has Halo been mismanaged? You could probably say, yeah, Halo Master Chief was a disaster for a while. Halo 4 was good, but then a lot of people didn't like Halo 5, even though it's rated really highly and was successful. People look at Halo Infinite and they're like, wow, there must be some big problems going on. But, judging from the reaction of the beta, it doesn't really seem like, you know what I mean? Like
the funny part is when they did expand upon it, and I don't have the clip, I'm sorry guys, but they mentioned games like Crackdown 3, which it was Sumo Digital.
Dustin mentioned Crackdown 3.
Crackdown 3 and Scalebound. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, those aren't Microsoft Studios.
Yeah. I mean, he tried making the point that
they were mismanaged.
Point was that you shouldn't want Xbox to buy anybody else because they'll mismanage them. And his whole thing was, look at what they did with Scalebound and Phantom Dust and Crackdown 3. Which, okay, fine. You want to make that argument, go ahead, but you need better examples. Like Crackdown was made by Sumo. Phantom Dust was made by somebody else. I don't even know off the top of my head. Scalebound was Platinum. Yep. Like those aren't examples of Xbox mismanaging one of their studios. Well, of course,
and this is the one argument I will say, that while they are managing their own studios when they contract out to these AAA studios or AA, whatever they are, and they want them to make a game for, Xbox. They manage their own teams, but I will say that there has to be some upper management from Microsoft kind of overseeing the projects as well. So I will say that old regime that we had there at Microsoft, we're talking about these games were with that old regime. I mean, honestly. And I think that they're just still feeling those old days of Microsoft and Xbox. I mean, wouldn't you say that?
Sure, but I think a better argument wouldn't necessarily be they mismanage their internal studios, although you can maybe make a case with 343 judging. Well, we'll see how Infinite plays, but
yeah, we'll see.
It maybe that they don't really pick good partners would be a better thing, because you look at Crytek and Rise, Insomniac and Sunset Overdrive, Remedy and Quantum Break, Sumo and Crackdown 3. All those games that were basically one and dones. Like none of them got sequels except for Ori, which is a shame because people would love a Rise 2 and people would love a Sunset Overdrive 2 and a Quantum Break 2 and all those other games. But hey, external factors happened. So it's, and I think I've talked about this at length with Colt. It's just people want to live in the mindset of Xbox is bad. Right? Xbox doesn't want to make games. They want to live in the 2013 mindset that Xbox One was a bad generation. They didn't release any good games. They want to continue to live in that mindset because it's an easy joke to make, right? And Xbox, they haven't released any games from their new studios that have been made under them. Like, we know that Bleeding Edge was already being made pre-acquisition. Same thing with like Grounded. Psychonauts 2, even though they've said, hey, the extra time and money what we poured into this was a direct benefit of Microsoft and the game's better because of it, people still say, well, they started working on that game in 2016, right? So they fall back on the old tired excuses of Microsoft doesn't know how to make games, and that won't really change until we see Hellblade 2 come out and we see Fable come out and we see Avowed come out and all these games have started. And if they're good, then people will be like, okay, Microsoft has changed and know what they're doing. Even though you're going to have an amazing Forza Horizon 5 come out this year that's going to be highly rated, even though you're going to have Redfall and Starfield come out next year, but people will be like, that doesn't count either because Starfield and Redfall were in development, pre-acquisition, the same thing with Deathloop. So it's just people wanting to hang on to the ability to downplay what Xbox is doing based on, like you said, the previous regime change, previous people who were in charge without a budget.
Phil basically got blank checks on a lot of this stuff and a lot of these deals to go out and get and make Xbox better, right? I mean, this is what I'm thinking about all this stuff when they're talking and they're saying things like, why did they pick up Ninja Theory? And I'm sitting there going, for diversity, game diversity. They want a diverse lineup of games in Game Pass because everything is all about Game Pass right now with Microsoft. Yeah. So of course they want a big diverse lineup of games. Hargeet, my boy Hargeet out there with the 5 says, Bethesda proves that buying a publisher doesn't hurt, but helps Xbox. Bethesda worked. Game Pass subs are up and consoles are selling out. he's right about that. But I think the main thing here, Hargeet, is that some people are thinking that they might be mismanaged. And that's what I want to talk about here with this whole consolidation thing. Because I think a better question is, would it be, so about the mismanagement thing, is it truly bad for the industry? And is it dependent on who's consolidating?
It depends on who's consolidating, because I don't think anybody wants to see Google acquire somebody, because everybody expects Stadia to just close up shop at some point, right?
Yeah.
And nobody really wants to, like if Bethesda was acquired by Stadia, like nobody wants to play Starfield on Stadia. Like that's just something that is where you're just like Microsoft acquisition. The Bethesda thing is people like look at it like, okay, that's good, because it definitely seemed like they wanted to sell. And Microsoft is way more open about where they put their games out. Like you're going to get an Xbox port for the console. It's going to be out on PC day one, right? Unlike Sony, who still is very much like, we're going to release it for PS5 and then maybe on the PC a couple years later. With Microsoft, like you're getting a console port, you're getting a PC port, both on day one, and then you're going to be able to stream it on your phone, on your tablet, on your PC, stream it on your old last-gen Xbox. Eventually, you're going to be able to stream it without any console through your smart app on your TV. It's like, actually, and Jez and I have talked about this in Xbox 2 fans, when Elder Scrolls comes out, whenever it comes out, Microsoft projects it will reach more people than it ever would have before, simply because of the PC, Xbox streaming, mobile way that they're going, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it does depend on who buys them. Personally, a lot of people, when they're talking about Bethesda, they're like, oh man, I'm really happy Microsoft was the one instead of Sony, because I can still play on my PC, which is not something you get with PlayStation at this point. If PlayStation buys, let's just say Square Enix or another publisher like Ubisoft, the PC ports they're done. Like if you want to play something, you can only play it on PlayStation. But if Xbox
for at least a year or two, right?
Well, for at least a couple years. But if Xbox bought it, you don't necessarily have to buy the hardware.
Yeah.
Like, and remember, fans, I always find this is interesting. Like when we were in the lead up to the Xbox One X or Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S launch, all the PlayStation fans were like, those are useless consoles because I have a bomb ass PC. I don't need a Series X or Series S, right? But it's just like, okay, well, if Microsoft bought that, go play on your bomb ass PC. You can play Grand Theft Auto 6 on your bomb ass PC. That's the thing with the Xbox, is they're beyond consoles, even though consoles are important. But you can still play all the games pretty much everywhere. The only place you're not going to be able to play is PlayStation. So I think it really depends. I don't think it hurts the industry, because I think with some of these smaller teams, like Bluepoint and Housemarque, Ninja Theory, Obsidian, I think you're going to get incredible games from them that you wouldn't have gotten if they weren't purchased, because they'd have a limited budget. So I think because of this, we're going to be getting great experiences from all these studios that were purchased. So I actually think it's a good thing, personally.
Yeah, I mean, more capital, more investment into these games. Period. I mean, that's the one thing. And if Microsoft truly just lets these developers do their thing, like say Bethesda, because I see some people are like, well, Bethesda's not going to be the same Bethesda anymore, which I think is ridiculous, right? Native had a comment earlier in the chat where he said that he's not going to look at Elder Scrolls 6 as a premium product. And I'm just like, why? Why not? Do you think they're going to change? Like suddenly, do you think that Bethesda games are just not going to be the same because Microsoft acquired them? I don't think so. I think that's why they acquired them, is because of their big games and their, games that a lot of people love, like Elder Scrolls 6. So, I mean, what do you think about that? Mindset?
Elder Scrolls has a bar to live up to, right? There's expectations with it. It has to look a certain way, has to play a certain way. Anything less, people won't tolerate.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that concern just goes into the concern trolling about Game Pass, how game like you won't get big games in Game Pass because it doesn't make sense, or because the money's not there and stuff, which is completely false. But once again, proof is going to be in the pudding. People need to see it, and they need to see Redfall, and they need to see Starfield, and they need to see Hellblade 2, and they need to see these games to be like, just finally put that narrative away that like, no, they aren't going to be, every game's not going to be a games as a service or, what have you. And they're not going to be a 2-hour experience or something short. Like, these are going to be big games. But I think a lot of it is like it's just the console war, dude.
Yeah. It is, because right now it's PlayStation versus Xbox in this this discussion. And like I was saying earlier, that's why I directed it towards consolidation being dependent on who is doing the consolidating. Because again, say a Tencent picking up Bethesda may be a horrible thing, for us gamers. But even if it went to PlayStation, in my opinion, even though, they would have kept it off the PC, ecosystem, for me, I know that, hey, I own a PlayStation, or I can go out and buy a PlayStation. And I know this whole thing about people can't just, some people anyway, can't afford to buy 2 consoles. Hell, I can't afford to buy 2 consoles at the same time. But you can save up a couple years down the line, buy the next one. I waited a while before I could purchase the PS5. Like, I didn't have the money to do both at once. So I just think it's very dependent on who's doing the consolidating. Danny Passion Official says, if I pay someone to build my house, it's not my fault if they do a bad job. That fanboy is totally wrong, but he's making money hating on MS. I don't think necessarily Colin is trying to be a fanboy or trying to hate on MS. He is in his feelings a bit in that comment. I mean, obviously, right? But I just think that it's just his opinion is a bit misguided.
Well, they were talking about that because of the whole rumors that Xbox was about to acquire somebody. Like, remember that week? What was it, 2 weeks ago now? Everybody was like, Xbox is going to acquire somebody. It's for sure happening. And then nothing happened. Like, because when that stuff happens, it'll be out of nowhere. Nobody's going to know. But they were talking about rumors, right? So, yeah, I mean, he's a PlayStation dude. He doesn't want, those games to go exclusively to, the Xbox. But you mentioned it. Like, the difference between PlayStation and Xbox is, PlayStation, you only be able to play it on the PS5. Xbox, you don't even need the console to play the game. You'll be able to play everything on PC. So you don't need to buy it.
And Native, he wants to clarify, because he says I was putting words in his mouth about the premium thing. Not necessarily, because that's what you're getting at here. But you yourself don't put a premium on Elder Scrolls 6 because Xbox bought them. But you personally don't feel it because they haven't shown. Oh, okay. So Bethesda themselves, that's what you meant. Okay. I got you. See, I think their new engine is going to be out there with Starfield. I think that's the first time we're going to see Creation 2.0 or whatever.
Yes.
So we'll see what the new engine is like. Hopefully it's a lot better than the last Creation engine. Yeah, I hope so. Hargeet again with the $10 super chat says, I think it's all fear. When Microsoft says they're all in, they can potentially own that industry. This is a realization that is hitting PlayStation fans. Nintendo is different enough. PlayStation isn't. Well, I think that's interesting that he brought that up, because PlayStation is trying to hold on to tradition by, hey, it's exclusive games. We want to keep everything on our platform. However, they are changing a bit, right, Rand? I mean, they are starting to put some of their games on PC.
Yes.
So this industry is changing.
Yes, the industry is changing. No, but if you would have said back in 2013 that by the end of the generation, Sony would be putting their own exclusives on PC and would be cross-playing with the Xbox, people would have called you insane. I mean,
they did call us insane when we said it.
They did call us insane when I said Horizon Zero Dawn was going to PC, and we've been saying forever that that's the whole plan. It may not be day one right now, but it could be day one at some point down the road. But yeah, they've talked about it. These games take so long to make, and they're so expensive to make that they want the extra revenue stream, right? So you put something like Horizon Forbidden West on PlayStation 5, and it'll sell there, and then a couple years later, you put it on PC and sell there. Like, it's all about money at the end of the day. And I think they realize that putting it on PC doesn't really hurt at all. And Microsoft realized that as well. So it's
Well, I think they still feel that it does because they're not putting a day and date, PlayStation anyway. So
yeah, but they're building their fan base. Like you have to look at how
you think they're slowly grooming them into this.
Like they know their fan base would explode if it happened. Like we knew their fan base would explode when they just announced any one of their games for PC, right? But the thing is, you can't change things overnight. You have to basically lead your audience and prepare them. So what they do is like, okay, member fans. You had all these excuses for people for when Detroit Become Human and Death Stranding were coming to PC, like bending over backwards. Like, well, they don't really own the Death Stranding. Like what they would come up with all these excuses for why it was okay for those games. But the second Horizon was announced, the community flipped, right? And if you go back and read that interview, he was just like, don't worry. Herman House is like, don't worry, guys. It's just one AAA game.
Yep.
It's not going to be all of them, right? And then a year later, they're like, we got a whole slate coming.
Yep.
And their whole message is like, hey, the best place to play these games at launch is going to be PS5. So they've moved past this shock of putting their games on PC to basically telling their fans like, well, the PS5 is the best place to play it at launch. I think at some point down the road, this is all just preparing people for everything to get closer and closer. Sure, maybe Horizon Forbidden West is 2 years out, but then, it's a year out, and then, it's 6 months out. And like, here we go. Now they're launching day and date on PC. And then people will just expect it at that point. They're basically just, they're hurting their fans to that final conclusion. But it takes time to do that. And it's one of the reasons why people were so against the Xbox One DRM strategy, Fonz, because people were so laser focused on how they've always experienced and bought their physical games and everything, that Microsoft changing it up really bothered them, because it's like you don't even give people the choice anymore. Taking away something that how it's always been done is always going to lead to backlash. You have to lead people slowly and surely to where you want them to go over time. It's a psychological thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, this all pretty much like, I'm thinking that pretty soon, anyways, the day and date may not happen for quite some time for PlayStation, but eventually it will, right? I mean,
yes, I think eventually it will.
Yeah. And what do you think about a Game Pass system?
I mean, they've been pretty vocal about not doing it, and nothing really suggests that they are.
I wish they would.
Yeah, I mean, I wish they would too, but it doesn't. Nothing so far that they've done suggests that they're on that path.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, you would think that would be the thing, but I mean, they talked about how their games are so expensive it doesn't make any sense. I don't really think. Maybe Sony doesn't want to absorb the costs, the loss that it would take for them to essentially get a service up from the ground, put all their games in there, and lose money for X amount of time. So maybe they also feel that Game Pass isn't going to change the industry or disrupt the industry that much, so it's not worth going after. We don't really know their plans. Maybe they have a different plan. Like they bought those anime companies like Crunchyroll and stuff. And there's talk that they might put those in a bigger, more expensive PlayStation subscription. Yep. Maybe they bundle PS Plus and PS Now together with that and offer it up. I don't really know, but I was told that I think people expect them to, but I don't really see any movement toward it. Like I see movement towards the PC stuff all the time.
It's like with any business when changes are made in the industry. And, a front runner like Microsoft in this realm where they're doing this whole Game Pass thing, because they are the front runners for this style of gaming. I mean, there's no other service out there like this for gaming. And I know recently the 2K boss, Mr. Zelnick out there, Strauss Zelnick, said, I think he asked Phil during an interview, like, what are we at, like 30 million subs now? And, Phil kind of laughed it off and said, last time I said anything, it was like 18 mil. Do you think they're close to that number right now? 30 mil?
I think they're about at 25 million.
Yep.
Right around there. If they were at 30 million, Microsoft would tell people about it. They would be bragging about it from the rooftops, telling their investors. And I know, like, the thought process is, well, he's the CEO of Take-Two. If somebody knows the subscriber count numbers, it's him. And, he said around 30, so 25 million is kind of around 30.
Yeah.
The point he was making is that it was more than 18, that it was a high number. I think, Jez mentioned that it was 23 million, but then he backtracked because he got the information wrong, which is why I always tell him, make sure you give me your documents so I can read them for you because you made that mistake. I do think after Outriders and MLB came out, Game Pass's offerings for the few months after that weren't that great, and I could see why maybe they backslid a little bit, because subscription growths are always like people subscribe, then they unsubscribe, then they subscribe, but it's usually like the graph goes up, right? But you're gonna have dips. You're gonna have dips when big stuff isn't releasing, right? But that's why Microsoft's goal is to have a big AAA game every single quarter, so as to keep people subscribed. And there really wasn't anything this first half of the year. Right?
I mean, you look at it now. They just put Scarlet Nexus in there, which is like widely loved, and also the Avengers, which is not widely loved, but a lot of people are playing it.
People like the campaign. I heard really good things about the Black Panther campaign.
Yeah, people are playing it right now.
Next week, I believe Back for Blood drops in day one. There are going to be more titles. Forza Horizon 5 in November, Halo in December. But I mean, there was like, hey, we had The Ascent and Psychonauts 2. Right, the summer was actually really good. So, it's
Risk It for the Biscuit said if he was wrong, why take it down? But somebody said Massive Rex says it's back up again.
Yeah, I believe it was taken down because they released it a day early and they pulled it.
Gotcha.
But I think Game Pass is doing great.
Yeah, me too.
I think the goal is probably. They'll probably hit 30 million at the end of the year after all these things are out. I think Forza Horizon and Halo and Back for Blood are really going to drive big subscriptions. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's when they announce 30 million. Like so it'll be like January, February, March. So it could be March of next year when they say, hey, our last quarter ending December of 2021, we hit 30 million.
That makes sense, because I think that's very doable to hit 30 million by the end of the year.
And then next year you're going to have Redfall and Starfield and
and whatever
and
whatever other like multi-plat games they get put in there. AAA.
And like, because the one and only Grubster, Jeffrey Grubb, he said that Xbox has billions earmarked for Game Pass stuff. And
by the way, I want to let people know. I hit up Aaron Greenberg. I sent him the issue on, it's not really an issue, but a lot of people were bringing up why is the beta for, what is the game? Battlefield 2042. Why don't you need PS Plus, but you need Xbox Live? And he said he was going to look into it. So I don't know. I haven't heard anything
I believe
back.
Betas have always not required PS Plus. For all their beta. I think all their betas because I've actually played some betas on PlayStation. And I didn't have PS Plus. I think it's just kind of the thing where it's like their policy was like betas don't require PS Plus, but Xbox always required Xbox Live Gold.
Yeah.
And I think it was just one of those carryovers. Like Battlefield 2042 isn't a free to play game.
Gotcha.
So to Xbox it's just like whatever, you still need gold, but for PlayStation I don't know. I think this is kind of always how it worked. So
shout out to Big Cloud Gaming in the chat. What's up, man?
Big Cloud, what's going on,
brother?
He says
hi to you and I. So we're at the end of the show, people. That's how fast it goes by. Look at that, Rand.
But we could go for another hour and a half, Fonz.
No.
We cannot
go for another hour and a half.
Me and you could.
You and I could sit here and talk for days. I know we can. We do. I mean, you and I, Colt and I, Dealer and I, we can talk forever. But yeah, it's the end of the show, folks. I gotta go, and so does Rand. I gotta respect my guest's time.
Yeah, I gotta go read Wheel of Time.
I do have an important thing to say that on the 17th I have a really special show. I booked a guest that I'd say a high profile guest, and he's he was in a little game that that some of us really like recently. And so I booked this guest, and I'm so excited, and I can't wait. And that'll be on the 17th, so that'll be in a couple of weeks. That'll be a lot of fun. But Rand, it's about you today, and tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, you know where they can find me, Fonz. They can find me on Xbox Live, although not recently, because I've been reading a lot of books, reading Wheel of Time. But if you want to check out my content, you can always check it out at youtube.com/RandallThor19, or, check me out on Twitter. I don't really tweet much. But it's RandallThor19 with underscores in between everything. But, it was a lot of fun being on Fonz. The hour flew by. It's like...
It does.
What is it, 5:05 now? We're 5 minutes over the hour mark, right?
Yeah, we're 5 minutes over.
So that's what happens when you play some E3 videos of me at E3.
Hey, it had to be done. It had to be done. I appreciate you.
What were you going to do if I didn't pick that, though?
I would have played it anyway.
Oh, you would have played it anyways? Okay.
Yeah, I would have said, what about this experience right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have been like, it's better than this? Look at this, Rand. I would have called you out on it. So, yeah. Anyways, it was awesome to have you, man. And awesome for these folks out here that show up, every week. I've got a lot of folks out here that show up literally every week, and I appreciate you guys so much. And those of you that can't show up all the time, I really appreciate you too. Those of you listening on all the podcast platforms, thank you, because my show's out there on all the streaming platforms. I really appreciate any way you listen to the show or watch the show. It really means a lot. And like I said, I got good guests coming up, and all my guests have been fantastic, in my opinion. I've loved every episode so far. I think this is episode 19. So next week will be the 20th episode. And I'm gonna just, I'm just gonna keep pushing with the show. I know I took a break last week, but I had to do something. But yeah, I'm gonna keep pushing with this show. And until next time, guys, please just, have a great time. Play the Halo Flight as long as you can. I don't know if it's over, Rand, but play it as long as you can this weekend. Have fun. Game on, folks. And I will see you next week.